Here's a PRO-101. It's working as a calculator, 1, 2, 3 times 8. There you go, clear. You can put it into program mode, and there's a program in there. You can look through it and so on. LEDs come on. It's basically a fully working PRO-101. There is a slight, if you look in write mode, a slight difference. There we go, 3,810 steps. Now that's not normal for a PRO-101. A normal PRO-101 has 256 steps that are shared across all the 15 programs. This one has 256 steps per program. And the reason for that is that this is the original board out of that calculator, and that doesn't work. So I have made a modern replica. Let me turn it off, take this apart. There we go, modern replica of the main board. The keyboard is still the original. There's a bit of corrosion there, so that's an original keyboard. And this is running on a Raspberry Pi Pico off USB at the moment. And in here there is a simulation of the PRO-101, so it's taken quite a while, but I have got a simulation of the PRO-101 which is, I'd say, 98–99% the same. There's a few differences, and I'm not going to replicate all the little tiny things that the PRO-101 does for whatever reason that I think is a bit sort of silly, really. So there are some differences. A very obvious one is that it's got a lot more steps. So just as a first start, I've put in 3,810 steps, which is 256 steps per program. That's a relatively easy thing to do, and the reason I've done it is that it's actually easier to code than attempting to manage all the programs in the 256 steps. So that, I think, replaces this old board, so that's sort of it. Now, as well as this board, what I was actually thinking was it would be quite nice to be able to fix the original PRO-101s so that you could sort of keep the original PRO-101 and still have a working mainboard, and then maybe in the future fix the original, so you can keep the mainboard original, you don't have to remove the display. So what I did was I made this, which is essentially the same code, same form factor of board that fits in there, except that this runs off a modern OLED display, so it doesn't have the VFD drivers and a VFD from a FX201, 202 or Pro FX1 or a PRO-101, replaced with a modern OLED display. Now the reason for that is that these calculators aren't mine. This one's not mine, it's going back, and once it's gone back I've got no way of running my code. So I can run this from USB, and the USB has enough of a user interface to allow me to operate the calculator without a keyboard. So what I'll do, I'll pop that into here, and you can see it working, because this looks, with a VFD, exactly like an original PRO-101, so I'll do that. So this is the OLED version of the PRO-101, and it's got a display here which is a graphics OLED display, which has got a 7-segment font that I set up, so you can actually, got a bit of key bounce on this code at the moment, you can actually have a display that looks sort of reminiscent of the VFD. It's a different colour, because it turns out that this filter isn't green, it's actually a blue filter, even though the VFD looks green through it ish. So that was a bit of a surprise, because this is actually a well, you can't see it if I take it off because the keyboard's display PCBs attached to the keyboard. It's actually a white OLED display with the blue from the blue filter. but you can, if my key bounce will allow me, you can go into prog mode, and I've got the 3800 steps that I've got on the VFD simulation because it's running the same code. If we go into P1, you can see there's a program in there, and this is one that's been retrieved from flash at power on, so you do have continuous memory in a way, because you can actually store programs in the flash of the Pico and pull them back, at the moment over USB, but that could be changed. That's just code now. Let's go to 7 and let's try writing a program. So that's 1 and 2 entered into, so a couple of values in memories 1 and 2. Then we can do, let's do 3 equals 1 times 2, and then we can display that with an answer 3 and end. And you can see the LEDs work as well, and we can then go into comp mode and we can run that by selecting PR1, no it wasn't, it was PR7, wasn't it? So enter value 1, so if we enter 6, enter, now it's asking for value 2, so if we enter 7 we should then get the product of those two numbers, 42, and it's now saying that's the answer and it's the value in store 3. Press answer and it goes to the end of the program, and then you can clear that with all clear. And all the functions work, so all the programming, if, go to, manual jump and all that. Indirect addressing works, you can have constants as you saw, well, you saw in P1, square root, powers and so on, so everything there now should work. I do have a bit of a key bounce problem, you can see there. 1, 2, 3, 9 gives me 2 9s, but again it's just code, so that just needs fixing. And this is the same code that runs on the VFD, you just configure it differently, build it, and you end up with a different display, so you can run exactly the same code. It's not two different versions of the code. So that's the OLED version of the PRO-101. So if you don't have a display but you've got a PRO-101, you can take the main board out, swap in that main board, and you've got a functioning calculator, and your original PCB is unchanged, so that gives you a different option there. This is the VFD mainboard, so this is the VFD option for the replacement of the PRO-101 mainboard, and I found out doing the code that I'd actually made a bit of a mistake here, and I've had to put wires on the back here to put some diodes in, and this was to do with the key switches. There's some switches here, and I hadn't put diodes in for the scanning of those key switches, so they didn't work properly. So that means I'm going to have to do another PCB to replace this, because these wires and diodes hanging off on the back are not particularly robust, so I think it's a better idea to redo this board, put those components on properly, and then make another one up, and then that will be the repair for well, this calculator actually. This is the one that had a broken, or still has a broken mainboard. So yeah, a bit more work needed there. This is the OLED version of the simulated PRO-101. So this is a PRO-101 mainboard with a modern display, so I can make this from scratch. I don't need to salvage parts from a FX201 series calculator. Now, when the calculators that I'm fixing go back, I'm not going to have a PRO-101, so I won't have anything to run the code on, but I can run it on this. Now that I've built one, I'm going to have to build myself one, because this is going with one of the calculators. And I thought, well, there's an obvious thing to do here, and that's to build a keyboard as well. So I've built this, which is a PRO-101 keyboard PCB, so it's the original circuit-ish. It is a form factor that will fit in the PRO-101, so you can replace the keyboard in the PRO-101, apart from one of the mechanical issues with these switches. These switches are actually a little bit too high, and it doesn't actually work. But irrespective of that, I could relay the board out and put in the proper contacts that match the contacts on the PRO-101 keyboard, and then this would be a replacement for that keyboard. It's got modern LEDs. I found some LEDs. It's got the pin header connector, so you can swap it with an original. It's got key switches that actually fit in the case, and they were difficult to find. I found someone who actually makes these, well, sort of. They make these, but the 6-way one they don't seem to make anymore. I only managed to get 8 of those, so I can only make 8 keyboards in total. Need another solution if more than 8 of these boards are needed. And it just plugs in, so you plug it in here just like you would the real keyboard once it's had pin headers fitted to it. And then this is running off USB. Plug that in and eventually there it is. So this is the PRO-101 with all new components running the simulation code. And again, you can, oh, it's in right mode. Let's put it in. There you go. 1, 2, 3. Is that that button? That button. That button. There you go. Not sure what that's doing, but anyway, it was divide. Over multiply by 8. What I haven't got, unfortunately, I didn't put the keys on the silk screen, so you need a calculator or a picture of it. Multiply that by 8 again. There you go, back to 1, 2, 3. And again, you've got programs. Everything is the same because you're right. It's the same board that was in the PRO-101 case just now. So what this means is I can make myself, and in fact there it is. I can make myself a PRO-101 from new components. So I can actually test my code on this now. I've got something to test if I need to do fixes and then remotely update the calculators. So I'm hoping I can get some sort of case for this. At the very least I need some sort of legend on the keys because this is a bit of a pain. You really need one of these to work out what the keys are, although I do know a lot of the keys now, having spent quite a lot of time writing some simulated code. And the LEDs work, obviously, because they're let's just go in there and turn an LED on. So if I go into P2, actually there's another problem. The key switches are the wrong way round. The way that the switches are wired, they're different switches, the pin out to the original, so there has to be a slightly different pin out, and I got that wrong, but that's just code. That was clear mode instead of write mode. So this is write mode. Well, actually we've got something in there. Let's come back out and let's try and find a blank program. 18, there is no such thing. Oh dear, it's not going well. P5, there we go. Nothing in P5. So if I say 1 equals and then K, you can see the light comes on. Now I can type a constant and then colon and so on and press end. And the end light comes on. So that's all working on this keyboard with new LEDs actually. So yeah, that's the keyboard which gives the OLED version the ability to be a PRO-101 from scratch, new components. Even though that's actually a real power switch from a PRO-101, but obviously that can be any switch at all.